What's going on, guys? It's the second episode of the WATM cast. I said we'd try and do these episodes weekly. That has obviously bloody failed, but here we are nonetheless to bring another episode. And I don't know how this is going to go, but we have to just keep pushing them out because there's no point for overthinking about it and not putting anything out. So we have a few different things I want to talk about today. It's mostly like game related. We're going to have a movie review at the end and a comic book review as well. But the reason for this late episode and no episodes coming out recently, or videos even on the main channel, is mainly because my work schedule has been absolutely bonkers. It was like 70 odd hours last week on just work, and I come back and just we're putting stuff out for the TikTok. I like to try and keep stuff out on there. WATM shorts or just WATM on like TikTok. I don't know what fell over then. I don't know if you heard that. We do have the window open today because it's absolutely roasting in England at the moment. Jesus Christ. Why is it so hot? I do not know. But I'm going to have to crack a can. Let's crack that can open. And today, cracking open a can of the Lewis Hamilton Monster Energy. Absolutely love this one. That's going to keep us hydrated through this podcast episode. And after that, now let's just get into the news. So some of these news stories are a little bit older, but it's some stuff I really wanted to talk about. And the first one on this list is a Lollipop Chainsaw remake. It's going to be made by Dragami Games. I'm not really sure who they are. I had to look online. I see they've made some stuff before. It seems to be mostly for PC and Switch. I don't think I've played any of their titles unless they made the last one, but I'm honestly not sure. Anyways, this game is not coming out to 2024. Apparently it was rumoured last year, doing a bit of further research into this. But I never heard about it last year. I don't know about you guys. But apparently it's not coming out to summer 2024. It's going to be called Lollipop Chainsaw RePop, which I think was quite cool. I don't think a lot of people ever really appreciated that game for what it was. And I believe it's just become like quite a cult hit. I absolutely love that game. For anyone that absolutely loves Blockbuster, that was the last game that I ever bought a Blockbuster. Probably the first only as well. Because I don't know about where you're from, but in the UK, Blockbuster was bloody expensive. But I remember seeing the standee in the window and I knew I had to have it. Because Juliet Starling is just a very attractive character. Had to have that game. It's a really fun game for those who haven't played it. I probably maybe wait for the remake now. It's going to come on consoles. It's one of those like Xbox 360 PS3 titles, at least over here. It seems to hold quite a value as well. I wouldn't be surprised in the future if that's one of those like future gems. But yeah, it's a really good game. It's fun. It's got like, if you like music in games, it's got quite a bit of that if I remember rightly. It's a bit of a hack and slash as well. But yeah, I really do love the original of that game. And I'm glad that it's getting a remake. How good that remake is, we'll have to see, because you can't predict anything in gaming anymore. And that brings me into our next story. The birds are chirping outside. It's too hot to close that window. I've turned the fan off. But anyways, Starfield has come out, and it's kind of come out to a messy launch, I want to say. It seems to have a lot of people interested, and there's a lot of people saying, it's like the best game ever, and a lot of people are annoyed with the bugs. I think this may just be the future of these type of games now, like these open world RPG type games. They come out with issues. I don't think this one's as bad as Cyberpunk, as at least what people are saying, but there seems to be all sorts of weird glitches. I'm seeing people doing money glitches, getting the best outfit at the beginning of the game, and all sorts of things like that. And then there seems to be other problems like character models. I've heard people complaining about not being able to progress because certain challenges are just broken, and that for me is a real problem. If you get a game breaking bug like that, it's really going to affect how you play the game, and that's really just not acceptable on things like that. I can forgive more weird things like money creation glitches, weird character models. Some of those character model memes, if you've seen them on Twitter and that, are absolutely kind of low-key scary. But you can forgive some things like that and polish, but what you can't really forgive is game-breaking bugs like not being able to complete a challenge to have more oxygen, or just generally progress in the game. I hate that. That happened to me playing Cyberpunk 2077, and you don't really know what to do in a situation like that because you don't really want to restart, and I just kind of give up on that game about 15 hours in because I'd have another 15 hours to restart and play the exact same missions over again, just to get back to the same problem. I absolutely hate game breaking bugs like this. I don't really know what they can do, maybe other than spend more time on it, but some people are also calling it like Skyrim in space, and I think some people were expecting something different than like a Bethesda title, like a Bethesda RPG style, if you get what I mean. Some people were saying it looks like a new game, but it's got like Fallout 3 gameplay. And I can kind of see where that comes from. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Bethesda titles, purely because I just do not like the way that they run, or like play, if you will. That's my personal preference. I might play Starfield if it's on, I think it's probably on Game Pass. I might play it at some point, but the file size is quite big. It's like 126 gig, I think. And that brings me into our next mini news segment on some gaming. Apparently, the NBA 2K24 is going to be 161 gigabytes on Xbox. Goody hell, these modern games are getting absolutely ridiculous in file size. I don't know what they're going to do, because if you're like me and you live a bit more like in a rural area, you haven't got the best download speed in the world. You know, my average download speed on Xbox is probably like 25 megabytes down on a good day, and that is going to take some time to download. And as well, a lot of these consoles don't come with huge amounts of storage. If I remember rightly, even if you get like a Series S that has the half terabyte SSD in it, you've only really got about, I think it's 360 something gig. Someone can correct me in the comments below, but you have about 300 odd gigabytes of storage. You can literally only install 2 games. You can probably install NBA, the new NBA and Starfield, and that's it. Then you need an external hard drive. I know they were supposed to be making some more versions of the like little plug-in expansion card SSD thing that they were selling, but yeah, you're gonna need I have a hard drive on mine. You're gonna need that because you don't want to have to re-download that game if you want to like move it around or play it at a later date. The file sizes are kind of just getting crazy. I think Call of Duty may already be on that. I've noticed that file has started creeping quite a bit recently, and plus the updates for some of these games, like talking of Call of Duty, there was a 75 gigabyte update the other day. That is just a really big update to download. And one of the other sad news stories from recently is Volition, I think it's Volition, that's how you say it. This studio basically created Saints Row has, believe closed down. That's kind of sad, but I see why. That last Saints Row game was not good. It was so off touch. And the Saints Row games have kind of been, I know they make other games than Saints Row, but I think they're mainly other games like Red Faction, like who cares. But yeah, Saints Row has kind of had a rocky history, I think. The first game was I think they struggled with trying to maintain do we want to keep a more traditional like gangstery game, a bit like GTA, or do they want to go a little bit more crazy with it? I feel like at times they went a bit too crazy with it. You know, you had Saints Row 1, that was more grounded. Saints Row 2 was also fairly grounded. Then you had Saints Row 3, that was a bit out there. And Saints Row 4 went a bit really out there. And then there was those little expansion packs like Get Out of Hell. And then they kind of rebooted the series, and it kind of just lost everything. They took away some of the main characters. I think some of the main characters that you needed for that series that people liked weren't there anymore because of the reboot. And the reboot, I'd never played it, but I watched some reviews and obviously some of the highlights of the cringy clips, and the text in that really just felt like it was wrote by someone older who's spectating a younger generation. It really feels like they didn't have a handle on what they were writing or who it was for. It felt kind of, I don't even want to say ironic, but it just didn't feel like it was in touch with people that were going to play it. And to top it off with the bad story writing, the world looked rather bland. You look at some of the other worlds in the Saints Row games, they have something to them. There is parts of the map that look like things. The other Saints Row kind of looks a bit like a desert with just other bits of just buildings and things. It just didn't seem like an appealing game, and it's a game that has just constantly gone down in price. It's constantly on sale, and I guess they were trying to do that just to try and save the studio maybe, but unfortunately that's the way of the world. You make games that don't sell. you're not going to be able to keep the lights on. In other news, after that kind of sad story, I do feel bad because I love Saints Row, but that last game was tragic. Stray, the cat game from last year, is now getting an animated movie. This is by, I hate pronouncing words by the way, by Anna Piranha's animation studio. They seem to be an arm of like a bigger like film TV production company, but their animation arm has only released one thing called Nimona. It's a Netflix style. I've never heard of it. I don't know if it's any good. It does seem to have like a anime-esque vibe to it. It could be good seeing a Stray film maybe. I don't know. We'll see when it comes out. I just thought it was interesting to know. So one of the other things I want to talk about is the Scott Pilgrim Netflix show. It's going to be an anime, which I quite like. It looks to have most of the original voices. I didn't go through and check every single one, but it looked to have a good few of them. I don't know about the director though. I kind of would have liked to have had Edgar Wright do it because he just did the original and I love his directorial work. But I don't really think he does anything with animation at all, but it might have been fun to see. Hopefully they take notes from his work from the movie. There is the guy who's directing it is called, it's a Spanish name, so I'm probably going to butcher it. It's Abel Gong Oga. Gong, is that Oai? I don't know. Abel Garonga. He's done some stuff in anime before, so it might be alright. I don't know. It's one of those things where you kind of have to wait and see. But I have hype for this regardless, just because of how much I love the Scott Pilgrim movie. I think it's coming out in November. It's going to be a good time. I noticed as well Netflix has recently just released the final, which I believe is going to be the final bit of Disenchantment, the Matt Groening series, which I haven't got around to watching yet, but I'm kind of sad about that because I don't want that to be over. That was a really good series. Well, I haven't watched the last bit yet, so I can't comment on the full thing, but up to now, it's been a really good series. And that's it for kind of the news stories this week. And next, I want to talk about a film and a comic book, and we'll get into the film straight away. So the film I watched recently was Blacula. It's kind of a fun blaxploitation movie. It has the charm that you'd expect from one of these type of movies. It's got a nice spin on the Dracula genre. Another movie you may like similar to this, if you like this, or maybe you liked Old Dracula. It has two different names. I think Old Dracula is one of them. I can't remember the other one. It's a David Niven movie. But yeah, the premise of this, kind of spoiler alert with my reviews, because I don't know what people class as a spoiler. But you've been warned. It's kind of a spoiler maybe. Basically, in Old Dracula passed the curse on. It's kind of got a detective-style comedy, like crime drama-esque to it. One thing I did not understand about this film was how, this version of Dracula understood where to go. Because, so the movie starts off, I think he's in, Transylvania with his wife or whatever, and he gets the curse passed on to him. Then somehow this coffin ends up in America, and he gets out, and it's how did he get there? Or how does he understand where he's going in the streets? That's kind of a novel thing I was thinking out. Yeah, you're looking too deep into a movie, but I just thought that was something interesting. Also, some of the, he makes some extra vampire, minions, if you will, during this movie. The makeup on those really reminds me of the movie Demons 2. Just a weird little side note there. And once again, it's kind of a bit like the other movie I was talking about earlier. He just kind of wants to be with his wife or the love of his life kind of thing. And it's kind of like a sweet movie in that way. But there is actually, I think, 2 Blacula movies. Not more. I don't know. I got this set from, is it Eureka? And it came with 2. I haven't watched the other one yet still. But it's a pretty fun comedy. You kind of get what you're expecting. It is a B-rate horror movie at the end of the day. It's got some comedic pieces in it, which I quite like. Some bits that make you question, like I was on about before. And I'd probably give this one a light 7 or a 6.5 out of 10. Just because of the style that it is. It's not like a movie you'd want to rewatch a load of times. I think this might be a one and done for me. But yeah, it's a pretty good watch if you're into that type. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today was Real World Superman. So for anyone who doesn't know, Real World is basically a title for 4 one-shot comics that basically explores the impact of DC heroes on everyday people. And so I'll give you the brief synopsis of the real world Superman. It says Eddie is just another kid on the street, a little shy, a little gangly, a little meek, until he crosses the path of a local street tough named Pete. And that's when Pete decides to turn the bookish Superboy's life around in real worlds. But yeah, basically this guy, spoiler alert again, he gets picked on a bit, and then one night I think he hangs out with this guy or something, or breaks into his apartment or something. I can't fully remember now. But anyways, he ends up with this Superman tattoo on his chest. He ends up going to prison with this tattoo. He gets buff, he comes out of prison, becomes like a gangster, and then he kind of shows off a softer side where he cares about like his community, and not necessarily just being a ladies' man and a necessarily brute. He just wants to like look after kids as well in his community and just pick on certain people. But eventually he gets stabbed in the back as other people in the gang think he's too weak. Then he goes off to think it's to be like a missionary or something, basically helping out people in, I think, is it another country or something? That's basically what he does with his life. But to me, it kind of like shows like that you don't have to be, the symbol on your chest doesn't necessarily define you, or you don't have to show it to be a Superman kind of thing. There's a few of these different stories. The Batman one, which I read a brief summary of, it's also kind of interesting. These real worlds stories in general seem like they'd be a really good idea for like a DC TV show, like a straight to streaming thing. Like, I don't know why DC can't make things like this into like 60-minute episodes, for streaming. Yeah, DC should definitely try and make some of these, I think, into little streaming episodes. I think things like this do great, especially looking at one-shot things like this, where you can just, have it done out in one. Like, this could be a series, and I think it'd be really interesting. You could do it cheaply, you could show a lot of different things, you could play with some new ideas, and not necessarily break the bank, like I think they do with a lot of these big movies where they spend tons and tons of money on them. I feel like if they made some decent, well-crafted story stuff, and it kind of annoys me as I've been reading more comics recently, that there's so many good stories out there, and they aren't the ones that get made into movies. Granted, some of them are Marvel does more of that work than DC, but even with like Spider-Man and that, there are so many good stories that haven't been made into movies, and you got to wonder why, when there's so many rubbish superhero movies, why aren't they just looking at the reference material that they already own? Like, why don't they do something like this and create something decent instead of creating it rubbish? Just popcorn filling crap that they think people are going to go into the cinemas and just sit down and watch because it appeals to the most mass market audience. Why not make something that's cheaper and maybe attracts more of a cult audience, or more of a dedicated audience? Like, the Joker movie didn't cost that much to make, and it made a ton, and I think it's because it was just a good bloody movie. And I feel like you don't have to have the most money in the world to make a good movie. What you need is people that can write, people that can act. You don't need the biggest names in Hollywood. You don't need the biggest budgets in the world to make these films. You just need some people with some dedication, some like style and direction, And I also don't think you need all the CGI. Like, I know some superhero movies, obviously you need the CGI, but I don't think you need the CGI for some of these films. Like, I don't know. It kind of winds me up that there's so many good superhero like stories out there, and they just do not get told. Or there's more like, how would you say it, more adult versions, less family-friendly stories that would be pretty cool to tell. And I don't think they're ever going to get films just because they aren't the most mass-market appeal things in the world. And it's kind of sad, Kind of sad, but at least they're out there in comic book form. We can read them and enjoy them. But that's been it. That's it. It's the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I need to put this on some sort of thing so we can get it on streaming platforms. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And I'll see you next time in episode 3. Hopefully, it will not be as far away as episode 1 and 2 were. But thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time.